thank you all for coming out for this fourth lecture in the Robert G. Sidnell Music Education Lecture Series. And today's topic, as we can see here, is rhythm, language, and meaning. Recently, Daniel Levitin from McGill University published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science fractal research as it relates to musical rhythms over the past 400 years, composers, and he found that there are fractal relationships in the rhythms composers use. And this actually has a lot of import for what we do in music education. So back in the 70s, fractals were discovered by a mathematician, and you've seen these fractals before. In the 70s, they had those psychedelic shirts that kind of did this with the kind of symmetrical patterns. Those are fractals. This is one. This is another. Notice as you're watching these, it's basically the same shape, just reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced down. And that self-perpetuating shape is one thing that makes a fractal. And many fern leaves are fractals as well. And here are a couple others. So the thing with fractals is that they amount and they create what we call noise. And there are three types of noise. There's bad noises, and then there's the good one in the middle. Imagine a particle molecule and in this room, and another molecule hits it. This molecule can go anywhere it wants because of the space between the molecules. You just have to believe me on that one. It could go this way, it could go towards you, back, down, up. Now imagine, that's called white noise. So when you hear, that's white noise. Now imagine that you are in water, and when you hit that same molecule, it really doesn't have the same mobility, so it's going to move in the same direction as the molecule that's hitting it. And this is called brown motion. I can't really play white motion or brown noise. I can't really play white noise on the piano because my ears are going to make it sound musical. But what would brown noise sound like in music? It just goes and goes and doesn't stop. It's very repetitive and it's dull. It's very, very dull. Let me read to you from some of Daniel Levitin's findings. Or actually, this is on fractal music. Now we come to a second way of viewing fractals through musical scores. Well, I wrote it. Music is very subjective and a personal thing. What one person thinks is music and lovely and the other person detests it. However, there are some common aspects between all of the music that span all genres and all generations, and one of these is the fractal nature of it, which I showed you on the previous slide. Perhaps even more significant than this fractal nature, what makes music interesting and enjoyable is an aspect that also is evident in the images that I showed you earlier, and their relative complexity. Even at these minute levels, they can be very complex. Humans like to find patterns. We are pattern-seeking people. A random collection of colored pixels or notes on a scale is unpleasant, hence the white noise over here. But we also like to be surprised. Brown music. How many people want to listen to a recording of hand and exercises? Probably not many. In music, phrases in harmony lead to what is called consonance. We know, and then when there's too much consonance, we introduce dissonance so that there's a little bit more interest. Music needs both elements, consonance, nice things, pleasant, and dissonance. We know that. Fractals, in a sense, live on the edge between what is going on and I'm asleep. That's where this fractal line is. So noises, I've said, is the white, random, just anything. Brown noise is boring. And then pink noise is the music we love. So what he did was he took all of the scores, Daniel Levitin, he took all of the scores from 200 composers over the last 400 years, 2,000 compositions. He took their notation, their rhythmic notation, inputted it into MIDI data, MIDI, and then analyzed it for fractals, just to see what it did. So he analyzed the data, and what he found was that music does, in fact, the notation of music, the way rhythms are notated, is very fractal in nature. It's not white noise with no similarity, and it's not brown noise, which is putting us to sleep. The way he found this out was he took all of the notes of the compositions and he messed them around, and then he compared the messed around version with the actual version, and the two things are wide apart. So the messed around ones turn out to be very white noise, and the true ones tend to be more pink noise. We have Beethoven, and down to Joplin. This line represents what is pink noise. This is arithmetically perfect pink noise. All right? Beethoven is a little to the brown of predictable. And we would think that because Beethoven is very rhythmically motive. There's a lot of rhythmic motives. And then Vivaldi, Frescobaldi, Buxtehude, Haydn, I would think Haydn would be over here. Corelli, Schubert, I thought Schubert would be over here. Clementi, Scriabin, Scarlatti, Bach, Chopin, Monteverdi, Mozart, and Scott Joplin was at the bottom, and this is point 4. And again, this is rhythm, not melody. As far as genre goes, symphonies tend to be, and if you can see this, there's a huge difference between the two as far as where they are on the graph. Symphonies tend to be very predictable. And we would expect that because symphonies are very formulaic. You start here, you transition to here, you do this, you have the recapitulation, you have development, very much by the book. Then string quartets, Scherzi, Sonata, Etude, Fugue, Sonatina, which I thought was interesting because they're, all of these are fairly predictable in a way. Preludes, madrigals, mazurkas, contraffatta, and ragtime tended to be the least pink noise. The least predictable is ragtime. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us? This is a music fractal. The space, if I could have a program that would allow me to do this, I would have put these two together. So what you see on each successive line is basically half again the note value of the previous line. This is a fractal. And this line here needed to be all on one line. All right? It's just smaller and smaller and smaller, just so you can remember those fractal images from the first slide to this one. And it all happens in the same time element. A fractal is going to be that rhythmic motive. Bum, 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 bum. Edwin Gordon, in his research, thinks that the fractal, actually, this pattern, yum, bum, 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 is the basic element of musical understanding of rhythm. Anything less than this or this is not musically intelligible. You must have something related to others, something else, in order to understand that it is music. So a fractal you can think of as a rhythmic motive. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. But bum, 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 bum and bum, 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 bum of Beethoven's Fifth is not the point. The point is bum, 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 that whole thing is the musical idea, not the ba-ba-ba-bum. So that's an example of a fractal in its bigger sense. I quote, cognitive psychologists have noted that human performance in a variety of activities, including the production of rhythmic sequences or patterns by tapping a finger, fluctuates over time with fractals, with this F1. Where steady beat is never steady. It's always going to and forth. And here's some important things. Here we reveal, as in his research, here we reveal that this time structure the same structure characterizes the stage of human cognition before action. Let me restate that. Because a musical score is something, and you have to just take his word for it because we know it's not true. A musical score is something that is created in the absence of playing or singing. It's a blueprint for playing sometime in the future. So a musical score is a roadmap in the future. So you're creating a roadmap that's going to have this fluctuation in it. And what causes us to have that fluctuation in our mind? Why are we predisposed to write music that has this fractal nature? And that was one of his questions at the end of his research. Perhaps composers can't help but produce this F1 rhythmic spectra. Perhaps musical convention requires it. It could be culturally bound. From a psychological standpoint, the findings suggest that composers have internalized, this is the important part, internalized some of the regularities of the physical world as it interacts with the biological systems of the mind to create self-similarity in works of musical art. Our finding of F1 rhythm, this fractal rhythm structure, in nearly 4 centuries of musical compositions may therefore be rooted in a fundamental propensity of our sensory and motor systems. Remember, rhythm is motoric, it's not static, to both perceive and produce fractal rhythms. He suggests that there's something innate about the way we are acculturated that is going to force us to do this without thinking about it. That's basically his argument. Based on that argument, my thesis is because language is so dominant in every culture but ours, that the English language is going to have a high degree of influence on the way we hear rhythm because of our immersion in that. So this is, academic hoo-ha. Because chance poems' lines are conceived and written as a whole, I'll talk about that in a minute, it's not little lines, it's a whole thought, then the rhythm of the whole stanza is going to be one thought. And if it's one thought, then we are predisposed down here to hear music or hear rhythms not in short sound bites, but in longer phrases. Ultimately, what's going to happen is that if we give students these longer phrases earlier, it's going to lead to more fluent reading of music because they can hear where the point is. They may not get this point with this point, but they know, oh, I'm going to hear, so I can keep going through the composition instead of stumbling over the same fractals. That's the idea. And again, it's a thesis that needs to be researched. So what about all of this? I was trying to think of what a good way of saying this might be. I thought of ur-text, but I didn't think ur-text was correct. But archetype. We have, well, an archetype, as you can see, there is a pattern from which other patterns originate. So I think that we may have these archetypal rhythmic patterns that pervade our music, that if we can analyze a large enough sample of music, we can say, oh, here's an archetype of music. Oh, come on. There you go. And that's, you're going to go bump, bump no matter what, just because that is ingrained in our heads. And if students can recognize these before they open the chords or before they put their hands on an instrument or a keyboard, They can, oh yeah, this is this and this is that.
Would this be only with the English language, like with Spanish or German or French or Japanese?
Well, interesting comment. I will talk about that, and maybe I should talk about that now. Let me just finish this one thing. The universal themes in literature, hero, villain, the same archetypal structures are, I believe, available here. Herb, to your question, English is a stress time language. The stresses are important in time, and everything else gets compressed or expanded to keep the stresses even. And I'll give an example in Spanish, which is a syllable stressed language, which the last syllable of a clause is the most important, so everything kind of runs to it. There's a big difference, though. Let's think about it in harmonic archetypes. It might be easier to think about it there. The 12-bar blues. How many variations of the 12-bar blues are there? Dozens. How many songs have been written with 2-5-1? I was upstairs recording a sight singing class, and they were do-re-mi-ing it to death. And the beautiful thing about the piece was 2-5-1, 2-5-1. It was all, except for a couple passing notes, it was all harmonic functions of 2-5-1. And if they have understood that, oh, this measures 2, this measures 5, and this measures 1, and can hear those changes, this is very Gordon, they should be able to nail more notes than not. How many times have we heard the kid come under the piano? 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. I mean, that's an archetype. How many songs are based on that? With my work with very young kids, this is bum, 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 1, 1, 5, 1. And it's 4 bars, and that's what we need, and I want my kids to play it. They don't hear that. What they hear is this. Oh, there's 2 of those. Let me go back one. 2 C's and a G, and then there's a C. Oh, 2 C's and a G. This is what they're thinking about, because they're analyzing it from letters, and they're not hearing the pattern. Archetypes. Crazy, crazy for being so lonely. This is basically 1, 6, 4, and you could say it's a 2. It is 2. 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. And instead of a 6, he has 1, 5 of 2. 2, 5, 1. So this could be conceived of as a variant of 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. And the same thing, I believe, is many times. It may not be a rhyme couplet, but it's 12-bar blues. The same, some are red and some are blue, some are old and some are new. It still can be jazz, you can blues sing to it. So that's the beauty. There's something going on here. Dr. Seuss, Ted, there's something going on. Somewhere over the rainbow, 32 bars. 32 bars. Does anybody recognize that one? 32 bars, I don't know if you can see it down here. The bass line from Goldberg. 32. 32. Each line, each thought is 8 bars long. Each, the binary form, each half is 16. The whole thing is 32. There is something going on with pattern and rhythm and big structure. And possibly, we're focusing on the little things at the expense of the bigger, hearing the big picture.
Well, in popular music, the 16 beats is king.
Right.
So in popular music, that pattern's just there. If you do if you don't follow that pattern, it sounds off. If you make pop music.
Right.
Rock.
Yeah. And then this is the last verse of the Star Spangled Banner. It's, again, 32-bar form. And if I were to create a rhythm, Herb, you want to help me out?
Okay.
Because I
You can make a rhythm up?
Yeah, just make a rhythm and listen to the rhythm, and they should work out just perfectly well. Make it a legit rhythm that you could record and put on YouTube.
Okay, just how long does it matter? Or?
I think that you're going to stop when you should.
All right. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-bum-bum-bum, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-da-ba, ba-da-da-ba-ba-da-da, da-da-da.
4 bars. He ended at 4 bars. Why?
Because I write popular music, 16 beats are king.
Well, even Bach's, stopped at 8. If I were going to create a rhythm, but that's only 1, and I need 3 more of those to make a full-fledged piece of music. So there's something innate about what we do naturally that should inform what we should do pedagogically. Getting to the question about the time-stressed and syllable-stressed languages. Time-stressed languages, English and German, the accents happen in time. Languages like French and Spanish, it's the syllable. So, una vez un gato sounds like this. Había una vez un gato, con los pies de trapo, y los ojos al revés, y los que le conté otra vez. And that's the way it's presented to primary children who speak Spanish. And I think to myself, what is going on? I can't, blah, 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 because the way I would do it, hear it, say it, would be, había una vez un gato con los, and that's very vanilla. That's very white. And it doesn't respect the language. Although the thing that I have to ask Juan Carlos about is if you set that to music, it would be había una vez un gato con los. It still has squareness, but it's okay to sing it. I don't know why. It's the idea that it's time-stressed, and we know English is in iambic pentameter. Bum, 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 bum. Short, long, short, long, short, long.
And
here we go.
Yes. And it goes along with a declamation, right? The way that we talk is going to be the way that we're going to sing, right?
Right. And this is more than just singing. It's how we hear rhythms that we're playing. Okay? Mr. Spatz, it should be. Mr. Spatz has 21 hats, and none of them were the same. Mr. Schneid's had 21 heads, and only one hat to his name. Herb, would you be my go-to guy and recite this as if you were with kids?
Like I was teaching it? Okay.
Yeah. Or say it like you did.
Mr. Spatz had 21 hats, and none of them were the same. And Mr. Smed had 21 heads, and only 1 hat to his name.
Okay, now say it musically. I mean, you were saying it musically, now put it with a rhythm.
Put it with a rhythm.
Iambic pentameter.
Mr. Spatz had 21 hats, and none of them were the same. Mr. Smith.
Oh, stop! Why did you put a big hole after this?
I don't know. This didn't.
The reason you put the big hole in is because you had to.
Because I had to.
You had to. You did exactly what your ear is telling you what to do. You did exactly what you should do. Notice that this little thing has 4 lines of 8, which turn out to be 32, and that there are these 2 holes. And part of the holes are covered up with anacrusis at the other end, but still, there is something going on in the literature that we present to our kids that can help us do a better job of helping literacy and fluency. Here is a poem by Edgar Allan Poe. And I'm going to read it just like it is written. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song in search of El Dorado. If you were going to a poetry reading, that's what you would hear, and that is appropriate. But when I printed this out, all of that is in one idea. Even though there are 6 lines on this page, there's only one period. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song in search of El Dorado. One breath. The whole idea is one thing, not 4 separate things. Although, notice here in red, there's this, it has the complementary thing here, and return to the first. Very much, that golden meaning. The stress is gaily bedight, a gallant knight in sunshine and in shadow, had journey, night and journey. Rhetorical stress, rhetorical intensity. There's something about the way we should be speaking and reading literature that can help what we're doing in the classroom. Oh, captain, my captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. Although that's one big idea. Oh, captain, my captain, our fearful trick is done. The ship has weathered every rack, the prize we sought is won. The port is near. And we can continue that line. It's just one huge idea. And this is where I think harmony comes in and melody, because you can bridge this idea with that idea through harmonic progressions and melody. But anyway, the idea is that it is the huge phrase that makes the difference. And this is part of our culture. The cat in the hat. All right. Thank you, Mr. Midgley. Read for us. Or actually, David, would you mind?
Then Sally and I did not know what to say. Our mother was out of the house for the day. But our fish said, no, make that cat go away. Tell that cat in the hat you do not want to play.
This is really, if you're putting periods and you're putting the thing there, the thing would be the rhyming words at the end. This is how it would be written. David, would you be so kind as to read it that way?
Then Sally and I did not know what to say. Our mother was out of the house for the day. But our fish said, no, make that cat go away. Tell that cat in the hat you do not want to play.
And now if you said it all in one line, then Sally and I did not know what to say. Our mother was out of the house for the rest of the day. I must have messed that up. But our fish said, no, make that cat go away. Tell the cat in the hat you do not want to play. It leads to right here. Everything drives to this point, which would be the third phrase of a longer musical idea, or the third part of a longer musical idea. And notice Ted gives us the large, the capital letters here, which help us understand not is the point. That's really where we're driving to. Rhythmic archetypes, you can't really see it because of the color definition, but here are 3. 2 same, different, and then 1 same or a variant of the first 2. 3 similar, 1 cadential, and then same, and same, second idea with a variant of the second idea there. These are typical things that we tell our college kids how to analyze their music. And as I'm working with younger and younger kids, this is what I'm presenting them. Kindergartners, there's this idea, and it's longer than you think. Because music isn't triangle, circle, triangle. It's a triangle represents a lot of things. And it's that idea that there's this musical block of sound, block of sound, block of sound. I want kids to understand that it's the cadence that really matters. And you have to listen to cadence. How about Humpty Dumpty? Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, yada yada yada. This is the way it is. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. All of those words, with the help of kerneling, are squished together in the same space of time as everything else. And notice how things slow down at the end, because that's what music does. It slows down at the cadences. And it's that same AAB, A prime thing. So we have the same thing here, but it's really, you can take that same AABA and make it on a larger structure. This is fractals and all of that kind of stuff. And again, it's the cadences. Kids have to be cognizant of, here are the stopping points, or here are the points of pause. My research is leading me to look at all of grade 1 UIL band music. Choir music is going to be heavily influenced by language because there are lyrics. And so, at first I'm going to look at band literature, and I want to see if there are certain types of rhythm that composers use time in and time out. And the other thing I'm working with Fred Allen on is to catalog all his music as far as their melodic rhythms, to see if he has an archetype. Oh, this is Fred Allen. If you know this rhythm, if you can say this rhythm, you can say 15 variations of this rhythm. Because it's this rhythm just varied. And it's really hard to see. Right here. Ba-ba-bum-bum-bum-bum. Ba-ba-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum. Yum-bum-ba-ba-bum-ba, yum-ba-ba-bum-ba-ba-bum-ba-ba. Even though I messed that up. Anyway. But it could be, let's take the tie out. Take the ties out. Ba-ba-yum-bum-bum-bum, yum-ba-ba-bum, ba-yum-bum-bum-ba-ba-ba. Ba-yum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum. If we're simply tying rhythms, why can't we give kids the archetype and then say, okay, now we're going to tie those two together. And now we're going to tie those two together. And now we're going to tie these two together. It's the same rhythm, we're just manipulating it a little bit. So new rhythms that they're reading aren't brand new, they're variations of something they already know. And even if they mess up right here, let me back up, no I don't. Right here, they know that this is always going to be on the same spot every time. Some, from the known to the unknown. And this piece down here, the last one, it's the same structure, AABA, that this woman used. So fractals, if we were using a language model, this is phonics. If you're teaching letters, lines, and spaces, you're teaching phonics. That's what that is. Gordon is going to say that this bum ba ba or bum ba 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 is a word. But means nothing. It's just a sound. This, in fact, has meaning within a meter. Okay? So that would be sight words, getting your kids to recognize style. But what I'm looking for are these archetypes that are the whole enchilada, the whole idea, whole language. And if we can approach it with a combination of whole language, sight words, and phonics, maybe we can get more fluency. And really the problem at the college level is fluency. We try to get people to read ahead, but when I'm reading, I'm not reading ahead, I'm recognizing as I go. So,
are you thinking that perhaps they should do more score study, kind of, and be able to visualize it before they actually start playing it?
Yes.
Or should it be intuitive as you're actually playing it?
The music that they're, it's a combination of both.
Okay.
The music that they're going to play is probably, and I'm talking 99% of the people in the world. And that is not anyone at this level. For the average Joe, 99% of the music they're playing is going to be intuitive. It's just going to sound right. That's the way it should sound. Because it's based on, at least theoretically, the same archetypes, rhythmically. So if they can scan a score and look for these archetypes, okay, look at that, okay, that's one less thing to worry about. So score study.
The score study and understanding, and that's why I understand at least theory, not so much for being a composer, but understanding what the 2-5-1 actually means, or 1-4-5, or the 5-5, what that actually means, because it's going somewhere, it's doing something.
Right, and for younger kids, you would never say this is secondary dominant, but at this level, it informs the conversation. But the idea that kids can understand that these patterns reoccur, they can hear the patterns reoccurring, and if they can't, then you can't put it in front of them. Sound before sign. But it's the idea of looking at the bigger pictures. The last thing I want to touch on is exponential growth. Music, you never have one of music. You always have two. Because in rhythm, you can't go. And your name again is?
Me?
Yes.
Barry Roberts.
Perry?
Barry.
Barry, that's right, Barry. If I go bum, 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 bum,
Bum, bum.
you can't go, okay, you can't, don't do it now. Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, bum.
Now this time, don't say it.
Oh.
Bum, 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 bum. It's just, it has to happen, okay? So for every one of these, there has to be a second. And if there are two of these, then there have to be two more and four. So music is exponential.
Huh.
Music grows exponentially. Even though I know a composer can make a 3-bar phrase in a 2.5, but that's the exception that may try to disprove the rule. If I can get younger kids to understand that if I'm singing 4 bars, they can anticipate another 4. Now, the 4 may incorporate some rest, but it's that idea. And that the unit of analysis should be 8 bars long, or 8 beats, 8 something. Depends on how it's notated. At 8, because, as Herb mentioned earlier, it's 16. 16 is a complete idea. Because we have 32 bars, right? We have one phrase, we have a second phrase, we have a complementary phrase, and we come back to the first phrase again, harmonically. Exponential growth. And there we go. Any questions?